Just yesterday, the mainstream media was reporting that residents of Martha's Vineyard were welcoming the migrants to their town, but now they're calling it a crisis. Joining me now is Florida Congressman and Judiciary Committee member Greg Stuebe. Congressman, good morning. It's always great to speak with you.
Hey, good morning.
Your reaction to all of this?
Well, what's interesting is, President Biden calls this a political stunt. The political stunt is Mayorkas and the vice president saying that the border is secure and the border is closed, when just in the month of July, 199,000 illegal immigrants came into our country. Since Joe Biden's been president, we're over 3 million encounters with illegal immigrants, not including the gotaways, and they want to call it the political stunt. The political stunt is at the border. The illegal stunt is at the border, where this administration is purposely and deliberately ignoring federal law that Congress has passed, so much so that they're not even sending these immigrants back who have judges who don't agree with their asylum case and have ordered immigration to send them back to their host country. And they're not doing that. That's the illegal stunt that's going on in our country right now.
In particular, I couldn't believe you had this community member in Martha's Vineyard called Governor DeSantis a fascist. And again,
there was only 2 planes. Yeah. Imagine if it was busloads that showed up there.
Yeah, I mean, the governor obviously is going to continue to get a lot of pushback on all of this. I'm assuming that you support Governor DeSantis in this move, but do you feel like this is finally between him and Governor Abbott and even Governor Ducey of Arizona? Do you think that this move by these 3 governors, obviously it's going to put them at odds with the Biden administration, but do you feel like D.C.'s finally waking up this morning and thinking, oh, we have a crisis. Oh, the border is a problem?
Well, these Democratic cities and mayors certainly are realizing that it's much more of a problem. And then they have to turn the blame to Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis. It's inhumane that you would send these individuals to our city, despite the fact that the Biden administration is putting them on the same buses and transporting them throughout our country. But that's perfectly okay. It shows the Democrats' hypocrisy. It shows the things that are really happening in our country and putting it on the doorstep of the people that support these sanctuary city policies. So it is highlighting the things that are going on every single day on the southern border. I 100% support what Governor DeSantis is doing. And hopefully this may change the policy that the White House has. But we all know that that's not going to be the case. Yeah,
well, look, I mean, there is going to be this meeting today at the White House. They say it was already scheduled with all these officials to talk about the border. But, we'll see what the headlines out of that are today. Arizona U.S. Customs and Border Protection reporting they had this massive drug bust. They seized 146,000 rainbow-colored fentanyl pills, along with 150,000 traditional blue fentanyl pills. Border Patrol agents also found 5 pounds of fentanyl strapped to a 15-year-old boy who was from Michigan. Congressman, your reaction to that?
It's unbelievable. The number 1 cause of death now for Americans between the age of 18 and 45 is a fentanyl overdose. And we know for a fact that all of that is coming through our southern border. Every day you read about apprehensions and seizures of fentanyl, yet there's millions of pounds, thousands of pounds of it that's getting across every single day. There's been enough fentanyl just seized since Biden's been president to kill every American citizen times 6. And that's the crisis that we are facing, not just the human toll of illegal immigration and the terrorists coming across our border, but the drug toll that is infecting the lives of Americans, so much so that is the leading cause of death for young Americans between the age of 18 and 45.
Tiana Lowe from the Washington Examiner, Congressman, is with me. Tiana, go ahead.
Hi, Congressman. So we know that from about 1998 to 2020, there were an average of about 330 deaths at the border per year. Last year, it was north of 500. This year already, before the end of the fiscal year, it's over 700. Has there been any investigation in the House's end into what has caused those border deaths and what, if anything, the Biden administration is doing in response to those deaths?
No, of course not, because this administration and you got the Democrats in charge of the House and Senate don't want to put any focus whatsoever on what's happening at the border and the impact that that's having on crime and fentanyl overdoses and the American people. So nothing's going to happen until we take the majority back, God willing, in November, get the gavels in January, and then you will see actual investigations of what's going on the border. And then you will see actual action against these administration officials who are intentionally and deliberately violating federal law on the border.
All right. Also, Congressman, I want to turn your attention and discuss the climate agenda. President Biden continuing this week to push electric vehicles. He was at the Detroit Auto Show. The administration spending $900 million for electric vehicle chargers. And Ford is telling their dealers that EV prices have to be set, meaning no more haggling with customers. What do you make of all of this, in particular the fact that with everything else happening in the country, all the other problems that we're facing, that it's still about the climate, in President Biden's opinion?
Yeah, that's the number one issue for the Democrats, not inflation, not the border, not crime, not any of these other things. The average cost of an EV is much more than a typical vehicle. Most people can't afford the average of $60,000. Most Americans can't afford that for a vehicle they don't want. EVs, and then you have situations like California, where if you do have an electric vehicle, because of the way that they've managed their energy there, depending on wind and solar and other things, you're not going to be able to plug in your EV and get AC at the same time. So I don't know how you're going to be able to get from place to place.
Congressman John Lonsky, economist, is with me here. Go ahead.
Yes, what I can't understand is why this was part of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. It makes absolutely no sense, because if we follow through with this push for electric vehicles, consumers are going to find themselves paying a lot more for a car or light truck in the future. It's just far more expensive. We have no idea as to how much upward pressure this is going to place on those rare metals that are used in the production of electric vehicle batteries and so on. And better yet, the impact, the benefits of having the United States adopt electric vehicles for carbon emissions are very, very slow, very, very low. They would perhaps reduce average global temperatures by something like 0.0002 degrees Fahrenheit.
If we went to complete zero emissions today in this country, it wouldn't offset what China and India and other these countries are doing. China's firing up coal power plants every single day. We're using all of that and dumping carbon into the world. So even if we went to zero emissions with what China and India and these other countries are doing, it would have a negligible, if not at all, impact on the overall world carbon emissions. So it doesn't make any sense to put this pressure on the American people. If people want to buy electric vehicles, let them go buy electric vehicles. Don't force it on the American people and force them into this like they're doing in California. It's not good for inflation, and it's not good for the economy.
Let the market play it out. That's capitalism.
Yeah,
that's
let the free market be what it will.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to make a choice to buy an EV, great, but don't force it on people, especially in California where they drive so much. Anyway, Congressman, it's great to see you as always. Congressman Greg Steube.
Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.